Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to Wealth Wednesday. Hopefully, you guys are having a phenomenal week. Excited to get into these topics today. We're going to shift away from the whole tariffs and president and all of that. I know you guys want to break from that. We're going to strictly talk Latinos today. All right. So, we got two dope topics regarding the Latino community that we're going to be diving into. And if this is your first time tuning in to Latin Wealth, welcome. Glad to have you here on this segment of Latin Wealth. We put out a new episode every single Wednesday, and we talk about trending news and topics that are related to the Latino community. And yeah, we're going to dive into that today. Today, we're going to be talking about number one, U.S. lawmakers target crypto investors using Puerto Rico as a tax haven. Very interesting topic that we're going to dive into. We're going to be hitting on that on the second half of the episode. But in the first half of the episode, we're going to be talking about a decade of data shows Latino entrepreneurs are growing and adapting to the new times. All right. So with that being said, my guy Jeremiah, how you feeling today?
Feeling good. Feeling good, man. Hopefully we step away from the tariff talk and stuff like that. We give people a little refresher because that's all you see on the news and stuff, man. Let's give a little bit of
Yeah, yeah,
little a
yeah.
little break, man.
A little break, 100%. And to help you out with that break, this Friday, we're dropping another episode, a dope episode with a Latina that lives in the UK. Right? So it's man, it's gonna be we had a phenomenal conversation and she's a I'll let you watch the episodes and get to her background, but she's a business owner that's absolutely killing it out there. She had a company in the United States, offered to buy her company in the UK, and things went south, and she's building herself back up, but she's absolutely killing it out there as a Latina. She's yeah, it's going to be a phenomenal episode. So don't forget to check that out.
Mm.
With that being said, we're going to be diving into this article done by Stanford Business, and I want to share some statistics regarding the data showing that Latino entrepreneurs are growing and adapting. So, business growth from the year 2018 to 2023, Latino-owned businesses in the United States increased by 44%, reaching over 400,000 firms. Revenue increase. These businesses saw a 36% rise in total revenue during that same period. 36%. All right. Profitability recovery. All right, so profitability dipped to 43% in 2021 due to the pandemic, but rebounded to 84% in 2024, slightly surpassing white-owned businesses. I don't care if it's slightly or a lot, I'll take it. All right. Diversification, Latino entrepreneurs are expanding beyond traditional sectors and more into professional services.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to put out there is AI adoption. Approximately 20% of Latino-owned businesses have adopted AI technology, often leading to increased worker skill set levels and employment, which I love to see this. We've talked a lot about AI and the expansion of it, so I think we think it's extremely important that more of our community are up on AI. Um, yeah, what are your thoughts about this information and this text?
It's always good to see Latino businesses growing. It's always good to see, I mean, more than the white counterparts is crazy. I mean, that's a phenomenal feat, right? In that same period. And then the fact that we're starting to get out of the service-based industries and starting to get more into the professional side of things. That's super important because now we're not just stuck to, I don't want to say remedial, but the type of jobs that people think that we work as Latinos, yard workers, cleaning up stuff or whatever, right? And nothing against those. I'm just saying as we start to move into lawyers and doctors, engineering, contracting, right? Real estate development. These are things that we like to see our people moving into because It isn't that we don't have the skill set or the intelligence, right? A
Right.
lot of times it's just been access or allowing us to come to the table. And so what you see is that, well, in many cases, we're just creating our own tables. We link up in collaborations with other Latino business owners. We're coming together, working together with CPAs, all these different things, right? And they're coming together to make growth happen. Now, one of the craziest things I think about this is during a time period, right? Or, well, the end of a presidency, and now you see that presidency coming up again. But in a time period where Latinos face open persecution, you know, just not even just being able to just kind of freely run around and do their business like everybody else. And you see growth in these time periods when it could have been suppressed. So that tells you that the Latinos are out working double hard and putting in extra amounts of effort to make sure that they're meeting their clients' needs, right?
Mhm.
And we should get kudos for that because it's hard to grow in any business. By the way, failure rate for most businesses is extremely high. Any
For sure.
business that you do, especially an entrepreneurial side of things, right? But to be super successful in a time where, I mean, openly people would discourage your success. Man, that's a big kudos. That's phenomenal news. It's crazy. That means that we're resilient.
Definitely resilient. And it's to your point, only 21% of Latino entrepreneurs receive full funding for their venture
There it is.
compared to 40% of white entrepreneurs.
There it is.
All right, just 51% receive explanation when denied funding. So a little over 51% of them, they get an explanation of why they're denied funding versus 87% of white business owners, they get a reason why, like, hey, you didn't do X, Y, and Z, or you need to do this. 87% of white business owners, they get the game on what they can do to get that funding. Now, what I'm interested to know is what's the flip side of that? So the 87% of the people that got the explanation, how many of those got funding?
Well,
You
I
see what I'm
mean,
saying?
yeah, but if it's 87% of the denials, right, then it's almost in the numbers itself because the actual percentage of approvals is doubled.
True.
Right?
True.
So you got 50% of the people, 51% of the people that find out why, right? The reasoning behind why you got denied, which is very important because it tells you not only if you go with a new bank or a new lender, you know now the process and the steps, the documentation needed, or
Right.
what you failed upon, right? Which is important. Um, but in their overall numbers of what was it? 41%
Hmm.
of the white counterparts get funded or
Hmm.
receive this funding, then it's almost like in the numbers itself, because 87% of the failures find out that what they've done, right? And so what that turns into is it increases the overall initial acceptance rate.
Right. 100%.
Uh,
And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is to your point about resiliency. Despite only 21% of Latinos receiving funding, you still see a massive increase, 44% from 2018 to 2023, of Latino business owners saying, hey, whether we get funding or not, we need to take control of our financial future and our family's future. So we need to start businesses.
and whether you're bootstrapping that, utilizing social media,
Yeah.
old guerrilla marketing, right, with flyers and
Hmm.
whatever it is that you're doing, and you know the demographic of your business, but it shows that we're studying how to be better, right? And we're doing it at an accelerated rate. So that's huge. That's a
Hmm.
big, and we don't get the flowers that we're giving the flowers now, right, Chris? We're giving the flowers, but we don't get the flowers. That's huge. Like, I'm not gonna fund you, don't really want you around, and you're still successful. Nothing beats that.
Yep. Yep. And so, last thing that I'll add to that is economic impact potential equalizing average revenues between Latino and white-owned businesses could add up to $1.1 trillion to the U.S.
Wow.
economy.
Wow. Imagine people that you don't want around adding $1 trillion to your
Trillion
economy.
dollars. True. And you know what's really interesting? I was having a conversation with an individual that works in the state of Illinois, and his department, they do a lot of research on Latino impact in the area and across the United States. And he brought up a really good point. He was saying if you look back at the major cities back in like 1940s and 1950s, what
Yep.
was the major cities back then? And you look at them now, the major cities that are like booming now are cities that are massively populated by Latinos.
Yep.
Now, he didn't give the cities back in the 1940s and 50s. I have to do my research on that. But they were like smaller cities, predominantly white um, populated cities. But you see places like Chicago, LA, Houston, New
Mhm.
York, Florida. Like we know these cities and states are predominantly have a huge population of Latinos, and these are some of the biggest cities, if not in the world.
I mean, it's no different than what you saw right in the 19th century and the 1800s in America itself, right? You saw the South was growing rapidly, right? The infrastructure grew rapidly because you had slaves. Like there's a group of people that do the work that the others don't want to do, but that work is necessary to build the actual framework of the country. So right now, what you see, right, or in the 30s and 40s during that industrial age, and you saw stuff start to expand. You had Latinos that were working, their finger to the bone across in all these different cities, building, helping to build that foundation along with blacks as well. But specifically Latinos in a big amount, right? New York, obviously, the Puerto Ricans came from Puerto Rico and a massive wave of, immigration and totally changed the whole entire,
Yeah,
outlook or
yeah,
perspective of New York. There's more Boricua in New York than there are in the island.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Speaking about Boricuas, U.S. lawmakers target crypto invest. I'm actually curious to hear what Jeremiah has to say about this. U.S. lawmakers target crypto investors using Puerto Rico as a tax haven. So there was, and I have to say this, there was a bill that was introduced potential. I have to use these words because people be crashing out in the comments like, this ain't,
Yeah, they do.
where'd you get this at?
Yeah,
This
they
ain't
do.
true. It was introduced, a bill was introduced to curb crypto investors from using Puerto Rico as a tax haven. All right, so the bill would amend Puerto Rico's tax codes, subjecting certain crypto gains to federal taxes, closing loopholes under Act 20 and 22, which is now Act 60. All right. Um, and why does this matter? Like we've talked about this numerous times, but Puerto Rico has attracted high profile crypto investors and influencers by offering 0% capital gains taxes, impacting local housing markets and really contributing to gentrification. Now, estimated losses. This is very interesting. Puerto Rico could lose four $4.5 billion in tax revenue between the year 2020 and 2026 due to current tax incentives. All right, so very interesting. I just had somebody hit me up. He's Latino, but he just hit me up just the other week, and he's in the crypto space, and he was asking me about the incentives to live in Puerto Rico and whatnot. So people are still looking at this place, still looking at Puerto Rico as a place to live, to avoid taxes and whatnot. What are your thoughts about this?
I think this has been the biggest, probably one of the biggest platforms or issues that we've heard mentioned from people like Dean, Bianca, these people that are reporting, right? And they're giving the actual framework of what's going on in Puerto Rico. The problem is that there's nothing wrong with Act 60. There's nothing wrong with bringing in
Right.
mainlanders, right, and the money and things like that. But you have to structure to where their companies employ local people. So what that does is then that raises the poverty line, right? It starts to try to eradicate it, or at least, bring the amount of people in poverty to a lower percentage if you're employing people. If you're getting these tax incentives, there has to be a clause in that to say, hey, 80% of that tax that you avoided, that needs to go into actual like our hands, like people that are living there, right? Uh, I mean, and obviously gentrification is almost unavoidable. This is the
Hmm.
type of things that occurs. But I just think Puerto Rico could do a lot more. I think we're almost welcoming that to occur with the tax incentives without stipulations on it, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with tax incentives because that brings money to the island, but it needs to have stipulations on it and how it's implemented. And when you get that tax incentive, you can't just keep it and hoard it and bring more people and do the same thing, right? It needs to
Hmm.
be implemented like, okay, if you're going to get this, you have to pay so much of this back into the community. Hey, you have to give this to said charity. They get right, just something. There needs to be better stipulations to how the money is going, because I don't want to see the opposite side either, which is everybody just pulls out of Puerto Rico because then that's taking income away from it. There is a happy medium that can be found. There's just
Hmm.
rules that need to be applied to how these tax incentives are going on. Crypto specifically. Obviously, people are going there and they set up these communities and they're not having to pay the capital gains tax. And I mean, if you hold your crypto, just like with equities or whatever, you won't be paying tax anyway until you sell. But people are going making tons of money off crypto, and then they go there, establish a rep or establish a corp there, and then get that tax incentive, and that money isn't going anywhere back into Puerto Rico. It's just in their pocket.
Mm. So for you, what would you like? Where specifically would you like to see those incentives go back into Puerto Rico? Like, is
I'd
it
like to see
infrastructure, schools?
infrastructure, 100%, and but schools, hospitals, power, utilities, those things. That's
Mm-hmm.
all a part of infrastructure for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those three things are very important. Our education is the number one thing, right? So we start with the power. Obviously, that's a huge issue. So we need to start looking into the microgridding and how we're gonna uh, appease the mandate of 2050 being 100% renewable energy. And then I put into the schools. There's many schools that are in Puerto Rico that don't even have roofs, right? Like Maria just ripped off their roof, and they were bad before that. So now it's just horrible. Leaking roofs, just some have just open space. It's the craziest
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like you would never believe that schools would be in this type of condition. But those two things are focusing. And then the third thing I'd be putting that money into is hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
so we can take care of our people. Those three things are the most important things. And I feel like if you're going to get some tax incentives, even if you took 10% from all these billionaires and these people that are making this money, you take 10% of that and pour it back into those three things, you'd be in a much better space.
Much better space. And even with the hospital situation, it's interesting because not only to take care of our people, but also to provide high quality work for our people as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember Brandon.
Yeah.
He was studying out there and he did not want to leave the island. He's like, I don't want to leave, but I have to because there's no work out here for my field. He had to go to New York.
And that's the craziest move. Imagine moving into a situation where basically you're not put into poverty, but you're put into a situation where you earn, but it doesn't, the
Mm.
buying power of what you're earning is basically just totally eviscerated. It doesn't even equal anything in New York. Um, and I feel for
Yeah,
people like that.
yeah.
But there's programs and things that we need to focus on in Puerto Rico because we can do this. That's the thing. Like in Puerto Rico, they have the resources to do it. It's just we squander so much of it. And then our politicians in general are all pretty much liars, but ours are like elite liars, right?
Hmm.
Like governors that aren't duly elected and they just like, numbers that never appeared, but the
Well,
governors.
which is what I wanted to bring up is like it's the craziest thing to me. Like I would love to be in the room with these, just a fly on the wall with these conversations. Like how could you not make a little tweak to what's going on to benefit your people?
If you're greedy and you create a aristocracy, right, or a group of people that feed each other and keep the money just within themselves, you don't want it to trickle down to anybody else because you just want to continue living the way that you're living. Now, laying this all out there, those exact people, they live in gated communities or high rises, condos, and condado, right? They're not living in the conditions that normal
Right,
people live
right.
in the projects, right?
And when things go
Constantly.
left, they leave.
Yeah, it's a completely different living condition, so it's not real to them. I think they're just out of touch, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. Let us know what you guys think about this. Again, this is a proposal. bill. So let us know what you think down below. Leave us a comment, like, comment, subscribe, share this with somebody that needs to hear this information. And as always, we appreciate you guys. This is the Latin Wealth family. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace, guys.